Heyo! Today I'm going to be reacting to Graham Stephan's $100,000 remodel. I'm going to be going in depth and analysing what he's done and whether I think those bits are good and bad, and also potentially what I would have done myself. Before we get into the video, let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm a 23-year-old property investor in the southeast of the UK. My remodels tend to be a little bit cheaper than Graham's, around £10,000 to £30,000, because my properties are a little bit smaller and the materials market in the UK is a little bit different. Be sure to drop a like down below and let's get into the video. So Graham starts by saying that most real estate or property investors would have just replaced the carpet, slapped some paint on the walls and replaced the acoustic ceiling. This would have cost them around $30,000.
Just replace the carpet, slap some paint on the walls, replace the acoustic ceiling tiles.
This is really great advice from Graham, as the number one most important thing when doing a remodel or a refurbishment is to not go overboard and let your emotions get in the way. When your emotions get in the way of a remodel, you end up adding extensions or a crazy marble bathroom or thick granite slabs everywhere, and your costs just spiral out of control. Therefore, I always advise setting a budget and sticking to it as much as possible when you do your refurbishments. Interestingly, the UK market is really different, and you could probably paint the walls, replace the carpet and ceilings, and repaint the kitchen for around £4,000 or £5,000. But in the UK market, just painting the kitchen probably won't cut it, as you'll need like a new modern style kitchen. So replacing the kitchen is probably necessary, but it would only cost you in total for all of those things above around £8,000 in the UK. Also, just a quick note, this video isn't really going to be me telling Graham he's done loads of things wrong. I actually really like him and think he's really great. This video is just my opinion, and obviously Graham and I are going to do different things based on our different financial positions. So obviously at the moment I work a 9 till 5 and only have a few different sources of additional income that bring in me a little each month, and therefore Graham obviously has a much different kind of income than I do. And seeing as time is money, it's currently a really great use of my time to do things like the refurbishments and demo process myself, like laying new flooring or painting and installing things. But obviously Graham's time is very different, and Graham's time is worth a lot more. Therefore, it's worthwhile for Graham to spend more time researching stocks to increase his investments, or to create more YouTube videos and spend more time editing and increasing the quality of them, or spending his valuable time smashing the like button. Graham then goes on to say that he's going to need to do a little bit more work, because to get to the master bedroom, you have to walk through the only bathroom in the property.
A floor plan that required you to walk through the only bathroom in the entire unit.
This obviously leads to a whole heap of problems, because obviously if someone's in the bathroom, you won't be able to get through it to get in or out of the bedroom. Also, you might not really want to go straight through the bathroom as soon as someone's been in there. This is a huge red flag to me, and if I was looking at a property for an investment or for a flip, and I saw that you had to walk through the only bathroom to get to a bedroom, I'd probably just pack up shop and look for a different project, unless I know that I can make an absolutely massive return. I personally look for a project where I can make at least a 30% markup on my purchase price. This is where my potential sales price is at least 30% higher than the property cost, just for slapping on some paint, putting in a new carpet or flooring and a new kitchen. If I was going to go rejigging the layout and moving walls, I'd want to see at least a 45% markup on my costs. But obviously, if he's getting this kind of 45% markup, it's definitely worth doing. Even though it might take a little bit longer and be a bit more effort, if there's more money at the end of this project compared to a different project, it's definitely worth pursuing. Graham then says that he started to remove some of the walls, which then led to more problems. And he says the words,
Once you're remodeling some of it, then you may as well just do all of it.
Which I think are absolutely killer for a remodel, because it sort of starts to sound like a ground up development, and those are usually giant money pits and only really work in specific circumstances. For example, if you're on a road that's just full of giant 6-bed mansions, all costing £1 million or more each, and there's some weird little 2-bed bungalow, it might just be easier to buy it, knock the thing down and rebuild something new that fits in with the rest of the street. But obviously, if you're buying a 6-bed house to knock it down and just build a different 6-bed house, you're likely going to be working on a very tight margin, or just flat out losing money. But he does say towards the end of the video that he recognises that it's usually not best to redo the floor plan because it's usually just massively expensive.
Do not rearrange the floor plan.
In Graham's specific circumstance here, it does look like he might actually generate a really good return because obviously he's based in LA and he's seen a massive increase in demand for this new kind of floor plan. It also looks like Graham has raised the ceilings in the property. In the UK, this is very rarely done because properties here usually cover 2 to 3 floors. Therefore, if you're going to raise the ceiling on the first floor, it usually ends up raising the floor on the second floor, and then you effectively have to double raise the ceiling on the next floor. From what I know though, even in the US this is really expensive, as you have to recut all the timber and all the ceiling joists and obviously lengthen the walls as well as obviously raising those ceilings. Therefore, if he kept the ceilings the original height, he might have stayed much closer to his original $80,000 budget instead of going all the way up to $110,000. Graham does say though that he did this to make the property a little bit more attractive because the right tenant might consider paying a little bit more for the right property. But what I think is really important and what it really comes down to is just how much this work costs compared to how much more the tenant is willing to pay. For example, if that work costs $30,000 and he's only going to get an additional $200 a month in rent, then it's probably not worth it. But if the work costs only $10,000 and it's going to generate him an additional $500 a month in rent, then it's definitely worth it. Let me show you why. So obviously, an additional $200 a month for 12 months is going to be $2,400 a year. And if his refurbishment costs him $30,000, that's probably going to take him about 10 to 15 years to recuperate his investment. But alternatively, if it generates him $500 a month for 12 months, that's $6,000 extra a year. And if the refurbishment only cost him $10,000, then that only takes him 1 to 2 years to recuperate that investment, which is obviously much quicker. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please leave a comment below letting me know what you think of his remodel and what kind of videos you'd like to see me make in the future. From the footage of Graham's video here,
It'll be installed. We also just got the floors in here that should go in shortly as well.
it looks like Graham's going to be putting luxury vinyl plank in the kitchen and the hallways, and probably carpet in the bedrooms. This is a really great idea because then some of the more higher traffic areas of the house won't get worn or stained as easily using a water resistant vinyl plank as opposed to a carpet that soaks up and wears very easily. He's also added a lot of recessed lighting into his property. These are really great because they're really cheap to install, they don't get in the way, and it's very decorative and modern to have say 4 or 5 recessed lights instead of one big chandelier in the middle of the room. Now, Graham then goes on to say that he knew he'd get an extra few $100s a month for adding the second bathroom. In the UK, a bathroom costs around £3,000 to £5,000 for all of the appliances, tiling and labour. Obviously, because the US materials and labour markets are more expensive, I imagine Graham probably would have had to pay around $10,000 to $15,000 for this. That sounds like a lot for only a few $100s a month extra, so an extra $300 a month for 12 months is $3,600 extra a year. So even if that bathroom cost him $15,000, it's likely that it's only going to take him 4 to 5 years to recuperate that initial money, that additional money that he had to put in. I also really like how he's added a sliding door in the bedroom of the property. Sliding doors or bifold doors are a really great addition because they're not too costly and they really open up the room and let in a huge amount of light. It's also a good idea that he's put it at the back of the property because then you still keep that privacy element of being able to use the sliding door into your garden instead of obviously onto a main road or something. Graham then goes into the master bathroom and immediately notes that it will have 2 sinks.
Back side of the wall, we're going to have 2 sinks, and then on the opposite end, we're going to be having
So this sounds like a bit of a his and hers sink or a his and hers bathroom, which could be a really great idea, but he needs to make sure that emotions don't get in the way and costs end up spiralling. If it's a fairly plain, nicely tiled, small bathroom with a small shower, he'd be fine. But if he ends up going overboard and laying marble tiles and a giant his and hers shower as well as the his and hers sink, the costs will really start to spiral out of control. Now I think it's also really important to remember that while doing a refurb or a remodel, the property is going to be out of action. So obviously if you're only doing a small project, such as relaying some carpets and flooring and a nice repaint, the property will only be out of action for only a couple of weeks and it'll be really easy to get it rented. Obviously if you're doing a complete ground up remodel, the property is likely to be out of action for a lot longer. Graham's about 5 months into his remodel so far and probably has another month to go. As Graham plans to rent out this property for around $3,500 a month, that's over $21,000 he's lost in no rents, because obviously the property hasn't been rented while he's remodeling it. But obviously, even though that's a lot of money in the short term, over the long term the remodel is probably quite likely to pay off. If the remodel gets him an extra $1,000 in rent each month, over a 10-year period that's an extra $120,000. Obviously you have to adjust it for inflation and the time value of money, but it's probably still likely to be a worthwhile investment. If you want to learn more about property investing, then please check out some of my other videos. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding the notification bell. That way, you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.